guess some of you are foreign. You're certainly struggling with the idea of quick and close. How big's the problem? How many Americans do we have here today?
Don't admit it.
Say hello to the Americans, everybody. Hello. There you are. Just think if you paid your taxes, eh? All this history would still be yours. Wouldn't it? Did you think about that when you got uppity about the price of tea? Did you? Lost. So you're paying now. Any Canadians from Canada? Woo! This is your history. It's still your queen. Yeah. Still part of the Empire, isn't it? Well, we can't call it the Empire now, can we? Got a bad name after Star Wars. Which, Any Australians here? G'day. Great to see you. Australia, look at this. Would you look at it? A land of beautiful women and rugby players. What position do you play? And Australia, not a lot of people know this, is the largest island in the New Zealand group. Look at the Kiwis at the back of the giggling. Any Europeans here? Oh, nervous hands going up there. Where are you from? Norway. Oh, that is marvellous. I do love Norway. Yeah, apart from your beer prices, which are absolutely astronomical. I don't know how you get so many drink problems out there. How can you afford it? It's just... Anyone here from France? No? Good. Anyone here from England?
Yeah.
Are you not European?
No.
That is one thing the French and the English agree on. They're not European. It doesn't matter where you come from, it really doesn't. And that includes the French. You are all welcome here today, very much so. They say an Englishman's home is his... That's right, this one's mine. I live here, alone, as it turns out. I'm single. 45 years old. Great sense of humour. Live in a castle. I'm on Facebook. I'm fairly unique, actually, in that. All of my other colleagues live here with their families, and they say they live happily. But a lot of them live along this street. This is known as Mint Street. It recalls another use of the Tower of London. See, up until the year 1810, all the coins of the realm, the empire, and the colonies were designed and produced in these buildings, which are known as casemates. This two-storey casemate was home to the master of the mint. Isn't that interesting? It isn't, is it really? That is boring, dull detail. But the reason I mention it is that in 1699, an incredibly famous man was appointed as the master of the mint, and he lived there. You will know his name. He was Sir Isaac Newton. Now, he invented gravity. Gravity, children, is a great British invention which binds the universe together. We're very proud of him here. Now, Mint Street looks fairly cosy, doesn't it, with those little, you know. But it is, in fact, a killing ground. Let's not forget that this is medieval, defensive architecture. An attacking army would have lost dozens, maybe hundreds of men trying to get through that festering bog of a moat, wrestling with the polar bears, climbing the outer walls. And all the time there are people on top of those walls trying to kill you. It's not easy. If you got here, there's another wall. This wall has a 50-foot curtain. That was put up there in the 1220s. There are 13 defensive towers. Archers on the ramparts and in these towers would be cutting you down with murderous volleys of arrows. The bell tower is the oldest and strongest of the 13 on the inner wall. The walls on the lower chamber are 10 feet thick. This means there are no windows, but there are arrow loops, which would allow the archers to shoot any unwanted tourist that made it through. Because of their strong structure, they were used as prisons, most notably for Sir Thomas More, Lord Chancellor of England, and a great personal friend of King Henry VIII. The Lord Chancellor's office has a nickname, though. He's known as the King's Conscience. Thomas More was a man of great conscience. He knew that to have the head of state and the head of the church in one man was too much power. There lies tyranny, he said. And not to prove the point or anything, Henry VIII had him in prison for that. 15 months he was here. In July 1535, he refused to sign the oath of supremacy, acknowledging Henry VIII as the head of the church in England. For this, he was beheaded on Tower Hill. Thousands gathered to hear his last words, and these were simple yet profound. I die the king's true servant, he said. I shall always be God's servant first. Amen. And 400 years later, in 1935, Sir Thomas More was made a saint in the Catholic Church. Another prisoner of the bell tower was that fellow James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, whose grisly execution you made me describe right at the beginning. Now, there is a bizarre epilogue to his botched beheading. A yeoman warder was sent running to London Bridge to get the head back. It was rushed immediately back into the fortress and sewn back onto the body by the tower's surgeon. Sadly, he was too late. There was then a delay of nearly 2 days before James Scott was finally buried in our chapel. Some academics and art historians suggest that this delay was to enable James Scott to have his portrait painted. The portrait hangs in the National Portrait Gallery. He wears a very large collar. Unusual for a mounted soldier. The face does have a peculiar and detached expression. Now, the gallery staff insist I tell you there's no hard evidence to suggest it was painted post-mortem, but you should go there and judge for yourself. Now, speaking of beheadings, I think we'll be heading off. From Waterloo to Traitors' Gate and the bloody Tower. Let's go.